remember doing some research actually about, like when the boats come over, there is actually, like, on the dock, you have a lorry that is ready to collect the boats to then take them over to France again. So they're doing this kind of circle, and that's to do with Black Rock. Black Rock is heavily involved in that, and there is like a real problem because, some people don't want to see or hear this truth, because when you hear or see this truth, you then have to take responsibility. You have to look at it deeper, and you have to own what actually is happening. And the corruption runs deep. China at the moment, any sexual, predatory, behaviour, there is a penalty, and that's the death penalty. They are starting to enforce that. Should we see that here in the UK?
100%. I mean, I just can't get over, and China's a great example of what they do with paedophiles. I mean, we described that. But you look at the countries that these other Muslims who are coming into our country, if they perpetrate a crime similar to what they do here, then they are dealt very severely. You come here and they get away with it because they're allowed to get away with it. And that is the problem. Our system allows them protection, which is not afforded to its local citizens, which is us. And that goes against all terms. And for me, certainly the Human Rights Act, which again we're going to come on to. But I want to get back to that point about what you see about they're coming in. If I look at drifting too far from the subject, it's important. The boats are one part. They fly in them in as well. 4 flights a week in Manchester. They come into 3 other airports that I'm aware of, and they're cleared without the normal customs route. Now, the former head of immigration, who left in 2022 under the Conservative government, he did 14 reports on immigration. Those reports did not all see the light of day. They're locked in a safe, 2 in particular. And they are both relating to the invasion of our borders by illegal migrants. What they do, they can also jump on a plane, €50 from Paris, throw away the passport and the toilet in the plane. And when they arrive, they claim asylum with no ID. That means they can manipulate their age, where they come from, what their background is. It's happening all the time. Andrew Bridgen mentioned it recently about the arrivals in the airports. What happened? I wrote to the Commissioner, I wrote to everybody to try and get some action involvement. Nothing happened. We had people at that airport, we spotted them. We saw where the buses went to, and they go out to hotels. So those sort of things that we're not controlling, we have no idea what their background is. So that, coming into it, we're importing problems. And this is not about giving people a hand, coming from a war-torn country. We can all laugh about there's no women and no children, because it's an invasion. It's nothing to do with the UN soldiers. It's nothing to do with... It is pure invasion to destabilise our society. And I'm not trying to say that, and I'm not racist.
No, of course. And this racism card, I think there is slight racist fatigue, isn't there? We're just kind of like, I'm so tired of this, because actually there is a real determined group of patriots now. I mean, we've seen Restore Britain, that's kind of uprising. It's like we have to look after the indigenous people of this country. We have to protect our women and children. And, it is becoming more and more increasingly difficult to, because every day we're seeing yet another crime, yet another murder, yet another rape, and it is absolutely grueling to watch, and we all feel helpless, because especially what Keir is stating, like, you've got this new hate law that's happened in Australia that could be happening here very soon, and that hate law is that anything that opposes anything that is deemed as Islamophobic, we're going to get sent to prison or fined or whatever. The problem is the rhetoric from the left is so prolific, and I was talking about this earlier with Richie, actually, it is indoctrinating the generations. So the generations are going to start growing up believing that the trans ideology is okay, believing that, everybody is welcome here. I mean, look at Wales. It's an open, sort of sanctuary state saying everybody is welcome here. Well, they're not, because let's face it, they're not just bringing their own problems and their crimes, they're bringing their bad behaviours, and I'm talking shitting on the streets. They are shitting on our streets. They have got no understanding of how to behave, in our community. It doesn't work, does it?
No. And I think you made a good point. And Emirates attempted to fly PIA, Pakistan, the Airways, and fly back into Pakistan, Lahore or wherever else. You see the state of the toilets. All joking aside, it's horrendous. You wouldn't want to go that way. But getting back to the point about getting into our community. So you have the Quran, which teaches the word of its Muhammad, the Prophet. And you can go through it. Now, the two versions I've seen, both in Arabic and English, differ. So they are taught different things if they read in Arabic. And I'd like to come to the verse in a while, but when you look at what they're taught at a young age, that ingrains and puts them into a situation, that's how they'll be for the rest of their life. And when they're taught that they're able to take prisoners during a war, and that prisoner could be your wife or your daughter, and they're able to do whatever they want with it. And that's taught in the Quran. Now, they're coming over that mentality. What they need to do is when they come here is not be given license on the street to stick them in a hotel or an apartment or whatever else. I'm going to say re-education camps, because that's the best way to put it. In China, you go sent to a re-education camp if you don't do well and something goes wrong. To re-educate people into our society, they should understand what it means to live in a Christian society side by side. Coming and trying to impose their own ideology on us is only going to lead to conflict. And we're allowing that conflict, and that comes directly from the top. Keir Starmer's all over this. I'm angry, because when I see the good people in this country and friends, and I see relatives, or I see a neighbour who are terrified to walk the streets now, then that to me tells me we're living in the wrong society. We should be looking after our people, not going against. So we look at Birmingham, there's parts of Birmingham now which you cannot walk through as a non-Muslim. They're stopping you from walking through.
Yeah.
So that is not acceptable in our country, regardless. So if I look at the information I'm going to give you, we have to have an information exchange, and then we have to have an action. There's no sense in me just communicating information to you and then that's the end of the show and nothing is done. It's a little bit dangerous here when I'm going to say this, but I'm almost wanting people to be angry about it. And I want people not to demonstrate this about it, because demonstrations prove nothing. But when you have the police, I suppose, controlling a certain area, and if that happens in 3 or 4 years at the same time, the police would lose control, because there's not enough police around. And equally, they don't help us anyway. So as this starts to develop, and I think as the anger comes out, when I give you figures and people see what we're up against, that will ignite things in people. And I don't advocate violence, but I advocate a change in the way that we're controlled and managed by a society that we want to live in, which is peaceful and harmonious. So it's a little bit, I'm going to have to temper this a little bit with what I want to say without inciting people. But when people hear what we've got to say, I believe it's going to go to the next level, because it is shocking.